Hello friends, good afternoon. Welcome to CEC-UGC lecture. Dear friends, today's topic for discussion is air masses, weather and global climate. Today we will be continuing with this topic, and we had this topic also in our last lecture. In that we had discussed about development, characteristics, modification and mechanism related to air masses of North American continent. And today we will be discussing the same content in respect of Eurasia, means Europe and Asia continent. To take this topic, we have our subject expert Dr. B.W. Pandey, who is Associate Professor, Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. So without further delay, I would like to welcome Dr. Pandey to our show and request him to begin his lecture. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Smita. Good afternoon. In the continuation of last lecture, which was on the air masses, its origin and mechanism of air masses, its spatial distribution, temporal distribution, and modifications to the air masses, and mainly thermal modification. Same context, I am going to discuss the remaining two continents. In the last lecture, I had told you that most of the world population, say more than 87%, live in the northern hemisphere. Therefore, the maximum impact on human economy, resources and society largely affecting the northern hemisphere. Therefore, we will focus about air masses about the northern hemisphere, mainly North America, Europe and Asia. So in the last lecture we had covered North America. So today we will cover comprehensively about Europe continent and the later on Asia continent. Friends, before beginning the air masses of Europe continent, you must be aware about the map of Europe continent. Europe continent itself is a peninsular continent. It is the number of peninsulas having itself, entire continent is a big peninsula. Therefore, the impact of air masses are more related to affluent kind. Affluent kind means air masses are largely affected with humidity, moisture. That's why you might be knowing about Europe continent that this is the only continent which is without desert, because its nature, a peninsula surrounded by water on three sides. Therefore, along with the surface winds, mainly westerlies, and air masses together, a combined effect, together bring lot of moisture throughout the year in Europe continent. Therefore, the average annual precipitation in Europe continent exceeds more than 100 centimeter. The peninsular effect largely on climate, weather condition and the wind system is such a unique that a fair amount of shower rainfall occur round the year, both in summer season, mainly in the northern part of Europe, and in winter season in southern part of Europe. Therefore, the continent is green, having more forest area, more natural forest, more man-made forest, and that's why the Europe leads in pastoral activities, dairy farming and horticultural crops. That contribution, geographical contribution to Europe continent is largely from the air masses and the surface wind system. In Europe continent, there are four major air masses. Number one, which develop over the northern part of Europe, that is CP, continental polar air mass. Number 2 is CT, continental tropical air mass. And friends, let me tell you that continental tropical air mass of Europe doesn't develop over Europe continent. It develops over northern part of Africa, that you can say over Sahara desert, called CT, continental tropical. And the two air masses are developed in Atlantic Ocean, one in the polar Atlantic, that's called MP, maritime polar maritime, and other in the tropical area, that is tropical maritime, polar maritime and the tropical maritime. So you can find two air masses, continental, polar, continental, tropical, continental, and the two air masses in the maritime, that is polar maritime and tropical maritime. Now, the effect, thermodynamic effect, air masses modifications and its impact on the weather, climate of Europe continent. It's very interesting to find lot of climatic phenomena, weather phenomena are directly associated with these air masses. So let's begin one by one. Number 1, polar continental air mass, CP, continental polar air mass, which develop over the northern part of Europe continent in the polar area. At source region, it is cold, dry and stable. At source, in the last lecture I had told you about air masses, homogeneity of air mass, formation of air mass, and then distribution of the air masses. So CP, continental polar air mass, develops over northern part of Europe continent with a cold climate, and northern European plain, including the Asian Siberian plain. So Eurasian plain together is the largest plain in the world. Eurasian plain in the world is the largest plain. So that find very unique condition for the formation of continental polar air mass in winter season in Europe continent. After the formation, when air mass extends over the latitudinal extension, then it is affected by difference of the temperature. It gets a momentum, it starts rotating. As soon as CP gets a momentum of rotation, it leaves the source region. It leaves the source region and gradually it moves towards south. Moving south, it pushes the tropospheric wind, pressure, air moves southward in the form of cold waves, and it passes through exactly over the Black Sea. Passing over Black Sea, it is largely affected by thermodynamic effect. It gets moisture. Moisture, the water body of Black Sea, affect the thermodynamic effect over the CP, continental polar air mass, and continental polar air mass then become unstable. As soon as it becomes unstable, now you see the map of Europe continent, there is Carpathian Mountains, there are Alps Mountains, Caucasus Mountain in the southern part of Europe. As soon as CP, continental polar air mass, affected by thermodynamic effect, it become unstable, and then due to the surface mountainous region, it get aloft and largely affected by the adiabatic condition, and it loses the temperature, it gets heavy condensation and yield heavy snowfall. Now, the southern part of Europe continent receive heavy snowfall in winter season is all because of the continental polar air mass and the thermodynamic effect of the Black Sea. Then, setting over heavy snowfall, it crosses the Adriatic Sea. Now, very interesting, if you see the peninsula of Italy, the eastern part of the Italian peninsula, that part of Mediterranean Sea known as Adriatic Sea, Aegean Sea. Passing over Adriatic Sea, it enters in Italy, and on the Italian peninsula there are Apennine Mountain. Due to the effect of Apennine Mountain on Italian peninsula, again CP, continental polar air mass, get aloft and it yields snowfall and cold waves. Friends, you must have heard in winter season Italian peninsula have cold wave that is called Bora. It's local wind, Bora. So the genesis of the Bora wind, the origin of Bora wind, basically due to the cold waves of the CP, continental polar air mass. Passing over Italian peninsula, CP, continental polar air mass, enter in Mediterranean Sea, that is part of the Mediterranean called Ionian Sea. In the Mediterranean Sea, meanwhile, maritime tropical air mass in winter season also become active. Maritime tropical air mass which develop in the tropical area of the Atlantic Ocean, it is at source, it is warm, moist and unstable. Warm, moist and unstable. Again, as you know, during winter season, the westerlies are very strong. Westerly becomes brave wind. Westerlies are very strong. So due to the effect of westerlies, also the unstable nature of the maritime tropical air mass, it moves towards Europe continent and enters in southern part of Europe and yield heavy rainfall. That is called Mediterranean type of climate because southern Europe receive winter rain, and this rainfall primarily due to the westerly winds on the surface winds and due to the maritime tropical air mass. So maritime tropical air mass along with the surface westerlies bring lot of moisture, and there is a heavy rainfall in Portugal, Spain, southern part of France and up to Italy. Now, it's very interesting here, the CP which is having cold condition because it is continental polar, and MT, maritime tropical, which is having warm condition. both the air masses meet in southern part of Europe and they develop front. The CP develops cold front, MT develops warm front, and then there is a frontal precipitation. This is called Mediterranean frontal zone. So Mediterranean frontal zone formed by continental polar air mass and the maritime tropical air mass. This front, because of the effect of Alps mountain, yield heavy snowfall over Alps mountain, and the surrounding mountains like Jura mountain, Vosges mountain, the Black Forest mountain, southern part of Germany, Switzerland, Italy receive heavy snowfall, and due to the effect of the heavy snowfall in the southern Europe, the Rhone Valley, that is southern part of France, Rhone Valley largely affected by cold wave. Friends, you know, the southern part of France, Rhone Valley, is world famous for the viticulture, production of grapes, production of orange, or the production of olives, viticulture. That area, Rhone Valley, southern part of France, the area near Marseilles, largely affected by cold wave, and that cold wave locally known as Mistral. So the Mistral is a local wind that blow in the southern part of France, mainly in the Rhone Valley. So the Mistral brings cold wave, and that is because of the heavy snowfall over the southern mountainous region of the Europe continent. As soon as the continental polar air mass and maritime tropical air mass, they leading the southern part of Europe continent. Now, after the movement of the CP in the south, then maritime tropical air mass, which is also moved in the Europe continent. Now it's the time of the polar maritime air mass. Polar maritime air mass moves towards Europe. It develops over the northern part of Atlantic Ocean, and at source region it is cool but moist. It is cool but moist. How it is moist? Because the northern part of Atlantic Ocean is largely affected by warm ocean currents. You must have heard about the Norwegian warm current. The large number of North Atlantic drift, which bring lot of temperature to the Europe continent. That's why the coastal areas of Europe continent, northern part of Europe continent, is frost free even during winter season. So due to the warm current, the Arctic region of the Atlantic Ocean, lot of moisture released, and the air mass remain moist and unstable. Unstable air mass, moist air mass is entered in Europe continent. Now, you must be aware about the map of the Europe continent. See, the northern part of Europe have large size of peninsula called Scandinavian Peninsula. Scandinavian Peninsula having Zolen Mountain, that is called Scandinavian Mountain. Zolen Mountain parallel to the coast of the Norway. This peninsula having chain of mountain, having the Goldhapigen, the highest peak over. The Zolan mountain behaves like a barrier, and the maritime polar air mass, which is cool and moist, get aloft due to the Zolan mountain. Now, very interesting point here, as soon as maritime polar air mass get aloft, it's affected by adiabatic condition, loses the temperature and yield, there is a heavy condensation and yield heavy snowfall. Very massive snowfall over the northwestern slope of the Scandinavian peninsula, along the coast of the Norway, along the northwestern slope of the Zolan mountain. Now, this is the reason that heavy snowfall brings large amount of glacier, and the glacial eroded surface are the key feature of Norwegian coast. Friends, this is the heavy snowfall of the maritime polar air mass along the slope of the Norway that brings large amount of glacier, and glacier cut the coast, and that glacier eroded coast known as fjords. So, Norwegian fjords are the most developed fjords in the world, and here I would like to mention you that because of these fjords, the coast of the Norway is highly suitable for fishing. There is Norwegian warm current. Now, understand the circumstances. Coastal area of the Norway having large number of fjords, and local latitude is around 60 degrees, 66 degrees. So, local temperature is very low, and glacier melting, there is a further water temperature is very low, but affected by warm ocean current, Norwegian warm current. So, Norwegian warm current brings warm water, and glacial melting brings cold water. So, there is a conjunction of cold and warm water along the fjords of the Norway, friends, that provide a unique condition for the origin of formation of plankton, and due to the plankton formation, there is a large scale fishing. So, that's why the Norwegian fishing coast known as Great Fisher Bank. Great Fisher Bank. So, there are 4 major fishing banks in the world. One is the Grand Bank along the coast of USA and Canada, the eastern coast of USA and Canada near Newfoundland. Number 2, Dogger Bank, that is in the North Sea along the east coast of the UK. And third is the Great Fisher Bank, that is along the coast of Norway. And fourth one is the Honshu Bank, Nippon Bank along the coast of Japan. And you see, everywhere there is a convergence of the cold and warm ocean currents. So, here along the coast of Norway, the cold water comes from the glacier melting through the fjords, and warm current called Norwegian warm current. So, the coastal area of Norway largely affected by the maritime polar air mass. Then, after heavy snowfall over the Scandinavian peninsula, maritime polar air mass that enter in the northern part of Europe and yield heavy snowfall in Russia. The effect of the heavy snowfall even occur over the northern part of the Scotland, covering over the Finland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, the Baltic states, including Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and over the Russia. So, Russian plain, Eurasian plain receive heavy snowfall due to maritime polar air mass. Now, the last one, number 4, is the is the tropical continental. Tropical continental air mass which develops over Sahara Desert, over the northern part of Africa continent, because it affects the weather and climate of Europe continent. Therefore, it is European air masses, but the source region of the continental tropical air mass over Sahara. And because of this air mass, the Sahara has become desert. Wherever air mass develops, because air mass by nature is anticyclonic condition. Due to anticyclonic condition, wind diverge. There is no convergence of the wind. There is always divergence of the wind, and because of the divergence of the winds coming from the ocean are not able to enter in northern part of Africa. Therefore, Africa continent, northern part of Africa, Sahara region remain dry and become the largest desert in the world. During winter season, tropical continental air mass, which is at source cold, dry and stable. Now, interesting that in the tropical area, the air mass is cold. In winter season, the cold air mass develops over Sahara region because of the very low temperature of the Sahara in winter season. The air mass is cold air mass. So, cold, dry and stable. After the formation, when it extends over the large latitudinal differences, it enters over Atlantic, over the Mediterranean Sea, then it gets momentum, start rotating and leaves the source region, and leaving the source region, it enters in Mediterranean Sea. Friends, in the Mediterranean Sea, the surface temperature, because of the subtropical area, surface temperature is high. Therefore, the continental tropical air mass affected by thermodynamic effect. This thermodynamic effect makes the continental tropical air mass unstable, and it enters in southern part of Europe, passing through Italy, southern part of France, it yields heavy rainfall. So, now you can see all the four air masses covering polar continental air mass, tropical continental air mass, maritime polar air mass, tropical maritime air mass, all the four air masses are very unstable during winter season and yield snowfall as well as rainfall in the entire Europe continent. Friends, this is the reason that entire Europe continent is humid during winter season. So, northern part of Europe continent receives heavy snowfall, southern part of Europe over the mountainous areas receives heavy snowfall, and the rest part of the southern Europe, western Europe receive rainfall. This is the reason that in the beginning I told you that because of this reason there is no desert in Europe continent because of its peninsular geographical location. Three sides surrounded by water. So, this unique condition brings the lot of moisture in Europe. Friends, this is the four air masses in winter season. Now, I will take you the air masses of Europe in summer season. Again, in summer season, there are 4 air masses largely developed in Europe and having the same nomenclature like the continental polar air mass, continental tropical air mass, maritime polar air mass, and maritime tropical air mass. Now, in summer season, the nature and the characters of these air masses are a bit different. Let's take first polar continental air mass. Polar continental air mass which develop over the northern Eurasian plain, mainly the Russian plain. At source, it is cold, dry and stable. At source, it is cold, dry and stable. After the formation, it leaves the source region and moves south. Moving south, in summer season, it does not pass over Black Sea. In summer season, because of the low pressure area of the Turan and Iranian region, Arabian Peninsula region, it is attracted towards south and it passes over Caspian Sea. It passes over Caspian Sea, but as in the last lecture I told you, in summer season, the altitude of the air masses are little high. Speed is little fast. Therefore, there is no thermodynamic effect. Continental polar air mass remain stable throughout. There is no thermodynamic effect, even though passing over Caspian Sea. Yes, there is a little effect that when it passes the Caspian Sea, friends, you must be knowing that southern part of Caspian is Iran. And Iran, the northern part of Iran have mountain, the Elbrus mountain. There is a mountain chain along the southern part of Caspian Sea. Due to the effect of this mountain, there is a little shower over Tehran region, and later on it remains stable and ends in southern part of Iran. And in southern part of Iran, when it ends, this anticyclonic condition, in anticyclonic condition creates desert condition, and Dasht-e-Kavir, the most salty desert in the world, found in Iran. So, in summer season, CP remain stable except little shower over the Elburj mountain, northern part of Iran. There is a capital city of Tehran located. Now, continental tropical. Continental tropical, again, in summer season, it develops over Sahara region, over Sahara, and in summer season at source it is warm, it is dry and stable. Warm, dry and stable. Now, it is very interesting here. In summer season, when it moves northward, there are a lot of surface winds blow out from the desert. There is a lot of deviation of the winds from the desert. So, the surface temperature of the desert is very high, say about 50 degrees Celsius temperature. Very hot wind hit the coastal area over the northern part of Africa and southern part of Europe. So, the very hot wind hits Morocco. In Morocco, it's called Leste. This local wind called Leste. When it hits the Tunisia, there's a hot local wind known as Chile. Then further hot local winds move out from the Libyan desert towards Italy, towards Greece. That's very interesting. You must have heard about Gharbi. And passing over Libya, passing over Algeria, there's very strong local wind called Sirocco. So Sirocco and Gharbi, very strong winds cross the Mediterranean and enter in southern part of Europe. Passing over Mediterranean, get little moisture. And when it enter in Europe continent, mainly Greece, Italy, there in southern Europe, in the evening time, the speed of the wind gets slow, and the time of sunset, there's a red beam of the sun. During red beam of the sun, the sand carried by these Sirocco and Gharbi gets settled down on the ground. It appears like the sand falling from the sky, and the red beam of the sun makes its red color. It appears like the blood, like the red rain. Therefore, popularly Gharbi, Sirocco in southern part of Europe known as red rain or blood rain. And there is no rainfall in southern Europe. Southern Europe remain dry in summer season. Now, maritime tropical air mass, friends, in the last lecture I told you that subtropical area, the latitudes between 30 to 40 latitudes. Subtropical area in the world are largely affected by reversal of wind. During summer season, there are trade winds blowing from 35, 40 towards 30. And during winter season, same latitudes are affected by westerlies. Now, look the effect. During winter season, because of the effect of the westerlies, the tropical maritime air mass easily enter in southern Europe, bring heavy rainfall, makes front with the continental polar air mass, brings snowfall. But in summer season, because of the effect of the easterlies, tropical maritime air mass leaves the European coast, African coast, and moves towards west and join North America. Maritime tropical of North America in summer season, and this is the reason that in summer season, maritime tropical North America, this air mass become aggressive. Therefore, during summer season, maritime tropical air mass of Europe, there is no effect on Europe continent. It leaves Europe and moves towards west. So the southern part of Europe remain dry in summer season. Yes, polar maritime MP, maritime polar air mass, which develops over northern part of Atlantic during summer season is cool, it is moist and unstable. Again unstable because of the surface warm ocean current. So this air mass, after the formation, it moves towards Europe continent. It enters in Scandinavian over northern part of Europe, Scotland, Finland, Norway, Sweden, the Baltic states and Russia. So northern Europe receive summer rainfall. Summer rainfall in northern Europe through the maritime polar air mass. So you can see in winter season, all the four air masses of Europe become unstable, bring moisture. But in summer season, only one air mass, that's maritime polar air mass, bring moisture in Europe continent. That's why the northwestern part of Europe have a typical British type climate, Western European type climate, where all the 12 months have rainfall. There is no dry season because the winter air mass, summer air mass, both are unstable. Friends, this way the 4 air masses of the Europe continent we have covered. Now we'll move to the Asia continent. In Asia continent, the air mass in Asia, there are largely 3 major air masses which affect Asia continent. Though Asia continent is the largest continent in the world, but having mainly 3 major air masses. This is because the southern part of the Asia continent, where the topography is highly unstable. Southern part of Asia having Tibetan Plateau, Himalayan mountains, which bring very heterogeneous condition, and the little anticyclonic condition develop over Tibet Plateau, but it could not form as a air mass. Therefore, 3 air masses are largely found in winter season, and similarly 3 air masses are found in summer season. So, first of all, we will discuss winter season, and you see at the northern part of Asia covering Siberia. Friends, Siberia is the largest cold area in the northern hemisphere. So, western Siberia, central Siberia, eastern Siberia altogether provide a unique condition for the formation of air mass. Like CP of the North America, similarly continental polar air mass, large size, immense large size of continental polar air mass develop over northern part of Asia continent. This is called CP, continental polar. Second air mass which develop in the Pacific Ocean, that is MP, Maritime Pacific, and MT, Maritime Tropical and Maritime Polar. So, 3 air masses in total which affect the weather climate of Asia continent. So, I will take first CP, continental polar air mass. Continental polar air mass which develop over northern part of Asia all the way from Ural mountain to Verkhoyansk. You know Verkhoyansk, the coldest place in the world. Very cold condition. So, this air mass at source is cold, dry and stable. At source it is cold, dry and stable. After the formation, when it leaves the source region, now it is very interesting to know that when it moves south, then there is a key role of Mongolian desert. It is the storm of the CP decided by Mongolian desert. The storm track, the pathway which an air mass follow called storm track. So, the storm track of the CP depends on Mongolian desert. When if there is a high pressure in Mongolian desert, then CP, continental polar air mass, takes the Mongolian route, and if there is a low pressure over Mongolian desert, then continental polar air mass takes the route of Sea of Japan. I repeat once again, Mongolian desert decides the storm track of continental polar air mass. If Mongolia desert having high pressure, then continental polar air mass takes Mongolian route, and if there is a low pressure in Mongolia desert, then continental polar air mass takes Sea of Japan route. Friends, when it passes through the Mongolian route, when it moves towards south, passing through Mongolia, the surface winds are largely affected, and very strong, snowy, cold winds moves towards south with a temperature say minus 60 degrees Celsius. This strong snowy wind known as purga, because of the effect of the purga and the effect of the continental polar air mass, the northern part of China get frost, and this purga wind affect this up to the Central Asia, and it moves towards South Asia thanks to the Himalaya. Because of the Himalaya, there is no effect of purga in India, otherwise there could have been very low temperature in North India due to the effect of purga. That's why Himalaya known as climatic divide. Himalaya divides the cold, dry climate in the north and tropical monsoon climate in the south, because the effect of the continental polar air mass and the surface purga wind, the China gets extremely cold. On the other hand, when there is a low pressure over Mongolia desert, then continental polar air mass takes route of Sea of Japan. Now, friends, when it passes through the Okhotsk Sea, Sea of Japan, in the Sea of Japan, because of the surface water, this air mass little affected by thermodynamic effect. Due to thermodynamic effect, because the air mass is cold, when it gets moisture, it's condensed, then yield snowfall over Hokkaido island of Japan, sleet, snowfall, the Korean peninsula and the northern part of China. This region receives snowfall as well as sleet. This sleet and the snowfall in northern part of Japan creates local cold waves, and Korean peninsula, the Japan, northern part of Japan and the northern part of China largely affected by cold condition due to the CP takes the Sea of Japan route. Friends, maritime polar air mass of the Asia during winter season, it moves little south. At source region it is cool, moist, but because of the effect of the cold current, Oyasio, this is the route of Oyasio cold current. Due to Oyasio cold current, this air mass remain cool and stable. When it moves little south, then it's affected by thermodynamic effect, then it leads sleet and snowfall over the northern part of Japan. The third one, maritime tropical air mass in winter season. Now, it's very easy to understand. In winter season, the source region of maritime tropical air mass, this is the area between 30 to 40 latitudes. During winter season, there are very strong westerlies. Therefore, maritime tropical air mass of the Asia continent during winter season doesn't affect Asia. Because of effect of the westerlies, it moves all the way from West Pacific to East Pacific, and it yields rainfall in California, in United States of America, in Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley. So, these three air masses of the Asia in winter season. Similarly, there are three air masses in summer season. The continental polar air mass in the polar area, northern part of Asia continent, maritime polar air mass, and maritime tropical air mass. Now, continental polar air mass. Continental polar air mass in summer season, again it develops over Siberia, and it's very unique surface condition for the formation of air mass. At source it is cold, dry and stable. After the formation, it leaves the source region and all the way it moves south and it moves up to the Shanghai coast, eastern coast of China, Shanghai coast, and up to throughout the continent, the same feature remain: cold, dry, stable, because there is no as such big water body, there is no thermodynamic effect. Therefore, it remain cold, dry and stable. In summer season, maritime tropical air mass. Maritime tropical air mass in summer season. Now friends, again I remind you, summer season, this is a zone of trade winds in summer season. So maritime tropical air mass in summer season, it develops along the east coast of Asia in the Pacific Ocean. It is warm, it is moist, unstable and it is aggressive. A large amount of moisture in the maritime tropical air mass. And friends, this is the effect of maritime tropical air mass when it leaves the source region. It hit the Southeast Asia. Friends, Southeast Asia excessively received over more than 200 centimeter rainfall. This rainfall basically due to maritime tropical air mass. Friends, passing over Southeast Asia, maritime tropical air mass converge with the continental polar air mass along the east coast of China at Shanghai coast. Friends, at Shanghai coast, it develops front. CP develops cold front, MT develops warm front. So there develops frontal precipitation. This is the reason that the east coast of China receives over 150 centimeter rainfall due to the trade winds effect, easterly effect, and also the frontal rainfall along the east coast of China. Finally, maritime tropical, friends, maritime tropical air mass in summer season moves towards North America. It doesn't move towards south. Therefore, there's little effect or no effect of the maritime polar air mass over Asia continent. Friends, at the end, you must have heard about Monet's monsoon expedition during the 1968 to 72. So there is a anticyclonic condition which develops over Tibetan Plateau in summer season. which helps in the origin of monsoon, and I have told you in my lecture in the chapter of monsoon, you can see there. So there is a, in summer season, little anticyclonic condition over Tibet Plateau, but it could not be designated as air mass. Therefore, 3 air masses in Asia continent during winter season and 3 air masses during summer season. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for this enlightening lecture on air masses, mechanism related to air masses and weather conditions. Thank you so much, dear viewers, for watching us. If you have any question regarding this lecture, please write us back on our official email ID, which will be showing just after this lecture. So keep watching, stay tuned. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for being here.